Hello, everybody. It's Marsha Casper Cook, and we are live on the air. And got a great show today. We have, well, for sure, we have Amy Patricia Meade. I'm not sure, and oh yes, and we do have Krysten, Lindsey, Hager. They're both here. I'm going to let them in 1 second. Krysten is connected. Amy's coming in, and we are on the air. Everybody here?
I'm here. Can you hear
All
me?
right, there we go.
Hi, Martha.
Hello, hello. Okay, so hi. Hope this is going to be a good show. I know the weather's really bad, but I think it should be okay here. I know you guys from the East Coast, so how's it going there?
It
It's
is dreary.
I know. Yeah. Well, you never know. Well, I'm in Chicago, so we always just say you never know.
This is true.
I know. All right. So I'm not hearing very well. Okay. Okay. So I'll let you two introduce yourself because you do it so well. Okay. And I am Marsha Casper Cook, and I don't always introduce myself, so I think I better. I have been doing this for 16 years. One would never know on this station, but 16 years of podcast, over 20 years in writing and screenplays and books, and love doing the shows. And both Kristen and Amy have been on, so I'm going to let you hear what they have to say. Kristen?
hi, I'm Kristen Lindsey Hager, and I write young adult and contemporary romance novels. And I love that Marcia and I are back to doing some podcasts again. We
Yep.
have so much fun on these, and I'm so excited to have Amy on here with us today, too.
Yep. This is great. Amy?
Well, thank you, Kristen. I'm happy to be here too with you and Marcia. I am Amy Patricia Meade, and I am the author of just finished my 19th um, published mystery novel, and the 20th comes out July 1st, and I'll talk about that probably a little later. But yeah, looking for a great conversation as always with you two ladies.
Yep. I'm just going to share everything now, so we are live. So, all right. All right. So, I just wanted, Amy, I wanted you to talk a little bit about you. It's almost over your auction that you have now.
Yes, it actually ended. It
Was
the
it yesterday?
I had I was running an auction for Whiskers Animal Benevolent League, and that ran until what was it, March
Yeah, couple
21st.
weeks. Yeah.
Yes, and that's a local rescue group that rescues cats from the Albany, New York area, and they do some really great work. So we had a book auction of local crime writers. If you could bid on their signed works, also a name a character in a future work for one of my books.
Uh-huh.
And two of yours, Marcia. I know that was in there too, so it wasn't just crime. Yeah, we raised about $550. It
That's
was
good.
a small auction, not bad for 25 authors.
No.
And we're having the live event, the live launch, which was supposed to take place in February, but we got snowed out. And that's next Wednesday. And that will actually feature a screening of Rebecca and a raffle and all the book sales of Death Upon a Star, my latest, go to Whiskers. So it's for a good cause, a little fun night out, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of spring weather. We'll see, just not snow.
Yeah. Don't you have another one at Trans now? You have a.
Yes, I was very honored to be invited to participate in the Crime Writers for Trans Rights auction that finished just yesterday. And I auctioned off the first three books in my Vermont Country Living series, all signed to the highest bidder. And all in all, we raised $58,000.
Oh my God! Really? Oh,
Yes,
that's great.
for the Trans Rights Legal Center.
Oh, that's really great.
Yes, it was a great auction, great cause, and everyone really turned out to purchase some. We had some heavy hitters. We had Stephen King in there too. So
Really? Oh my God, that's wonderful. See,
yeah,
that's a good thing. And sometimes on Facebook, things don't show up the way they should.
the algorithms,
Yeah,
yes.
And I don't know. Kristen and I talk about this all the time. You put something out, and I don't know if it shares like it did.
Yeah, yeah, everyone, the algorithms decide what you see and what you don't, and how much of this person's posts and that person's. It's tricky.
Yeah, it is very. And so the Meta. I get a bill from Meta because I thought I was going to post something and I didn't, but obviously they thought I did, so they charged. It's not. It's very confusing for people. So even for the show, I posted. I usually do, I haven't posted too much since I've been doing this just to make sure the shows were okay, but you don't know where they're going to end up
This
or
is true. Yeah, it's a difficult thing. It's certainly not intuitive. Let's put it
So
that
I'm
way.
working on, trying to figure out some new things that maybe we can do because I think most people, they're getting aggravated. They're not selling. Nobody's seeing anything, and so I think people are seeing it. So I repeat this every week because I think they are seeing it. They're just not sharing it or maybe even liking it.
I think it's that old advertising maxim, isn't it? People have to see it 8 or 9 times before they actually realize that it registers with them. So
Well, that could be true. And I'll tell you, I myself have to, and I just wanted to say that a lot of people don't do this anymore. I know we all think that we maybe post too much, but probably not.
probably. I always fear that I'm posting too much. I don't want to be,
So,
you
but
know,
that's not even good either, though, because I've been watching the people on TV when they're talking about their books. They are continually talking.
they
And
are.
every time
They are.
any of the news reporters on any of the channels, they talk about their new book coming out, their podcast all the time.
I don't know if I have the stamina for that. I
I don't either.
Well, Kristen, you're always out there doing it. You're posting a lot.
Really, I haven't been doing much lately. I really haven't. Since the move and everything, I've been actually focusing more on reading. I've been doing a lot more reading and watching shows and stuff too, trying to fill the creative well, which I think a lot of readers like to do as well, just kind of escape the chaos right now. So
Yeah,
that's kind of what I've been doing, is focusing on filling the creative well and, finding some good quality type programming and books.
and I'm not reading very much. I listen to audiobooks.
Hmm.
I want to read, but I don't know about you, but I'm actually trying to unsubscribe from everything I'm on
Hmm.
because I get email after email about nothing. Do either of you get that?
Oh, yes, my emails every day. I just could cry. They're
Really?
very overwhelming. So, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
same here. The
so once I'm
unsubscribe.
done with all of that, then I figure out I don't want to read. I rather listen, and so I think, I know I say this a lot about audiobooks, but I love them. And I know Amy, yours is coming out in an audiobook very soon.
Yes, yes, Death Upon a Star is it's already in the UK on audiobook with BBC. And it is going to be released on Audible and other platforms here in the States on April 22nd.
Oh, that's great. Okay. And also I'm actually doing. The other night, I just in the middle of the night thought of something. Thought, I my ser- well, I, it's I added the three books together of It's All About Love. I put it together. So I decided to talk to the person, my narrator, and we're going to put them all together because I did add it. I made a book of it all, all three stories in one. So, and he did all three. So he's going to do it for me in May. And
Oh,
then,
nice.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. Well, who knows? I don't know. But I did think of it. And actually, I put something in AI to ask a question. And they said, maybe you should say trilogy rather than series. And like, I never even thought about that. But that's kind of a good word to use in some ways.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I'd always, people used to do it more. Now they say series. But obviously AI thought trilogy might. And I thought maybe I'll just use that because I had to cut my description. It was too long. like, okay, let's talk about movies, but as long as I'm talking about descriptions, when you're, a lot of the descriptions are very short about a movie now that you might be watching. So maybe that's a better idea. What do you, like, Amy, what do you think about that? Because we don't have to give that much info, I think.
It yeah, I don't know if that works so well for books. It's I think it's a necessary evil for television because there's only so much that fits in that little caption when you're kind of
Right.
surfing channels. So I think that's why it's kind of cut the length of those down. But I think for a book, I think the blurb on the back cover copy, a
Yeah.
lot of times is what sells the book. That helps sell it. That and a compelling cover. Um, what works for movies, and it's funny. I don't know if you can. I'm a novelist for a reason. I don't write short stories, so I obviously think more
Yeah.
words are better. So
Right.
I'm
Right.
probably biased in this question.
Right.
But I don't know if those brief descriptions on movies necessarily capture the whole essence of a film.
Yeah.
I've seen a few that actually made me laugh. I can't recall what they are, but I mean, it's what would the Wizard of Oz be? A girl gets stuck in a tornado and transported to a different world.
Right.
Does that really capture the whole essence of the film? No.
Yeah, I saw and I'm not going to say which book and movie, but there was a book I was reading. I just found out was made into a movie recently, and so I went to look at, what info was out, and it referred to it as hilarious. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm almost finished with the book. It's not funny at all. Like, what did they completely rehaul this movie? So I'm curious, did you watch it? Because I did not laugh once. I didn't find anything in it funny. If anything, I mean, it was an excellent book, but it was not. I mean, I kind of lean toward the depressive side a little bit. So that sometimes when you read one of those quick little captions, it doesn't carry over to what the whole thing is about, and you can kind of be disappointed. Like I prefer to go in and kind of know what I'm getting, because if it's not what I expect, then I'm kind of disappointed. If it surprises me in a good way, that can be okay. But somebody once said, it's like when you go to McDonald's, you know what you're getting and you don't want to be surprised, sort of thing. And I think a lot of people are that way.
And I
Exactly.
think they are surprised.
Hmm.
And that's what I think, because sometimes they say, sometimes I think if they do that, and it's really, there's a lot of drama in some of the romantic comedy type things. And I think if they give you the details too much, people go, oh, I don't want to watch that. But if
Yeah, I
they
think
say there's
people.
humor in it, I think people are inclined to sometimes, because they just say, like, oh, I don't want to be depressed.
I think people say that some of the illustrated covers have thrown them because they expected something lighthearted and sweet. And sometimes I've seen people complain that the cover, seeing an illustrated cover for a romance or a rom-com threw them off when they actually read the book. I've seen complaints about that. So yeah, I think sometimes when your expectations aren't met, it really can throw you off.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I started writing screenplays, I had a difficult time uh, reminding myself that yes, if it was a drama, that yes, you can put something in that's, you can add a little comedy and drama. And I didn't. It took me a while to realize that, the people, not everything you say is serious and sad. So if you add a little, laughter in, it's okay. But I at first did not know how to do that. I kept thinking it's a drama, so why would I put something in funny?
Hmm.
I realized you could, because sometimes you see, like, you have to have some comic relief. I think is what people need sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree. It's like, it's human nature. Even so, during some of the darkest times of your life, you find something
Right.
amusing and you begin to laugh, and it
Yeah,
doesn't
I
make
think that's
the
true.
situation any less tragic. It's just that moment isn't as serious.
Right. Yeah. All right. So let's see what movie, Amy. I know what's your Saturday night movie. What's
I
going?
don't have one selected yet. I know we usually watch a vintage one every week, but since Val Kilmer just passed away, I was thinking of possibly watching one of his.
I felt really bad. I he's, he went through a really tough battle,
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did.
and he kept moving along even through it all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he went far too young, that's for certain.
Yeah. And then, I think, when someone tries like that, I think it's a really good thing for other people to see that. So don't give up. If you have some illness that it's debilitating, but he went out and just worked.
Yeah.
Did. Yeah, he was very brave, and it also helps call attention to. I think he had throat cancer, did he not? Is that what he had? I believe.
I
It was,
believe
Um,
so. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and he really couldn't talk. I think that was,
yeah,
and,
absolutely.
uh, but maybe we'll talk a little bit about Richard Chamberlain, okay? Because he
Oh,
just,
yes.
and they were saying when they were talking about his death, they said he was like the champion of series
Well, I
because
I remember him from
Four
before.
Birds and some
Yeah,
of the older things that he
yeah,
did. He was a really good actor.
and he had a kind of a, I wouldn't say debonair, but he was very classy, very elegant,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
yeah. And he was one of those stars you never really heard anything bad about. It was everyone liked Richard Chamberlain.
right.
He was likable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think now sometimes, because of the social media, people that are stars, they write things and they fight with each other on social media, which isn't really good.
I would call it unprofessional, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's not like Betty Davis and Joan Crawford in their movies together.
No.
I just saw a post on Instagram the other day that was talking about in the 90s, before like these big PR machines really got involved, that there were a lot of these young actresses and singers that were taking swipes at each other and stuff. And some of it I remembered, some of it I didn't. And they really went for the jugular and stuff. And they said now there's, bigger marketing teams kind of, coaching these girls on what to say and what not to say, because they were all quite young.
Yeah.
And it was kind of threw me. I thought, oh my goodness, like, wow, they did not hold back. So actually, it's a little bit more restrained now, believe it or not.
Uh,
Well,
I I might remember some of those feuds too. Yeah, yeah, they were in all the magazines. Yeah,
Yeah, the Hillary Duff, Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, and there was somebody else I can't remember. But they had this whole video of them sharing stuff. But in a way, maybe sometimes women's voices do get you know knocked down. So maybe it was a chance for them to speak out. Maybe they were kind of repressed in what they could say, and it was a chance for them to finally have a little bit of control too. It's hard to say. And it must be so difficult. Like I write a lot about in my Stars in the City series about how people in the spotlight, different kinds of stars, singers, actresses, how they really are bombarded by strangers' comments and gossip blogs and people thinking that they don't have feelings, and they really can't address everything. People are going to have false pretenses and interpretations of who they are, and that must be just so frustrating to live with on a daily basis. People thinking they know you and even hating
oh,
you for something that maybe you didn't even do or didn't even say or was misconstrued. Or because when I was looking at that video, I looked up a couple things and there were a few things that were misquoted. So yeah, that must be really hard to be living under that kind of microscope and that kind of a fishbowl.
it is. That is what it is. It's tough, and some of them can't take it. You know, some are stronger than others, but it's hard. It's hard to take. You know, like EYS magazine that I write for from Australia. Jasmina Sidorowski. She started her magazine again, and so I was supposed to do a story before she closed it for a couple of years about. Well, I was doing C.D. Gorey. She's an author who writes. She writes book after book after book, but she writes about curvy women, and I think it's so important. That's why I asked her if I could do an interview on her because not everybody can be tiny and thin, and you can have curves and still be beautiful and have love stories. So I think people have to be a little kinder to each other, shall we say?
Mhm.
Hmm.
When some people in Hollywood, if they gain weight, they're hard on them, and it must be
Yes.
horrible. You know, I think.
Well, remember years ago with Anna Nicole Smith, to her face, people were just horrifyingly cruel to her. And it was just so unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things in the old movies. They had teams that seemed to work together well. You know, um,
Hmm.
the men and women were constantly in other roles. Now, Amy, you're writing a book now, right, with couples that are for a murder mystery.
The Vermont Country Living Mysteries features a husband and wife who moved from New York City to rural Vermont. So it's very much a fish out of water story. So they have to adjust to their new surroundings. And of course, when they arrive at their home in the first book, when they arrive at their new home, they find a dead body in the well in their property, and it's the local contractor. So they end up solving the crime. And the fourth book in that series is going to be released in July. They actually have a vacation. It's Foul Play in La Playa, so they're in Playa del Carmen. They got a vacation. I have not, but I'll live vicariously through them. But but yeah, it's fun. A lot of the cozy mysteries they call it, because the crime happens basically off camera, so to speak.
Yeah.
So there's no gory details. There's a little romance. There's lots of humor. Um, but most of the cozy mysteries feature basically, usually, single women. So it's kind of nice to write a story where there's a husband and wife and there's banter, kind of in a Nick and Nora Charles sort of way.
I know.
Yeah,
Because this is my next thing,
a little bit of
like
that.
the Thin Man and all of those movies.
Yeah, but of course contemporary and a little pop culture references splattered through there, and yeah, so it's a fun series to write, and it's a fun read.
So
They're
don't you
very
think that it makes your writing better because you watch a lot of these older movies?
I do. I think there's something to be gained from most, watching even television series sometimes, if the writing is really good, it all helps. Even I hate to say it, but even some of the soap operas, I
Well,
We love
I
soaps
watch
over
soap
here.
operas, and so does Kristen. We both do. I watch soap.
would, okay, but I grew up watching Young and the Restless with my grandmother, and I have to say,
I'm still watching it.
Yeah.
I got back in there because they had that story about Heather was murdered, and I popped in there because somebody told me about it. No, it's murder. I don't know whether I should be flattered by that or not, but um, but but I popped in to watch a few episodes, and there's something to be gained from that. How you it, it's a challenge to keep an audience tuning in day after day after day for an hour.
Right.
So there's a real talent there. There's a real skill.
I think that's true. But unfortunately, some of them, Bold and Beautiful, which I also watched for all these years, they bring back the same people. I wish I know they don't want to keep, having new characters, but I think we need some.
Oh, absolutely. I saw where I think Ridge was picking between Brooke and Taylor, and I said, "Wait a minute, wasn't this? Is this 1988 again? What hasn't he already decided?"
That's why you can keep watching it. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
she
was telling my mom about, in the early days there was a Caroline and Brooke that he was going between
Oh,
and stuff. And yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember once there was a show called, I think it was called Sunset Beach. And I was home. I had an internship at the time. And my sister was like, "Oh, do you want to watch this with me?" And I said, "Well, I've only watched one episode like a year ago." And I was telling her like what I saw in that episode. And she's like, "Oh, you haven't missed anything. You'll just jump right in." And I thought, really? After one episode after a year? And she was right. So there is something, kind of comforting about episodic television that way. And I do like when they bring back the older characters. My mom is trying to bring me into Bold and the Beautiful more. Um, and I kind of watched Young and the Restless a little bit more than that. And when I turned it on, the Deacon character was on, and I know him from when he was AJ Quartermain on General Hospital. And I said, man, if you had told me that,
Deacon?
Sean Kanan was on, you would have gotten me watching the show way earlier because I
Wait,
loved him back then. And he was
Deacon
also
was
in
on
Cobra
General
Kai,
Hospital?
if you watch
I didn't
that.
know Deacon was on General Hospital.
Yeah, he was AJ Quartermain.
Oh,
Back
Well,
in the day. Very
I
good
think
on that.
it's
yeah,
a
I
long
think
time ago. Now
that
I
is a while
can't
ago.
get
Yeah,
straight in my head. I'm trying,
I I, did, I saw where they matched him with Sheila, who used to be on Young and the
oh yeah,
Restless back in the day when I watched it. So
they did. They
that
did.
was a blast from the past.
Yeah,
And
and he
now
was
they,
on Cobra Kai,
yeah,
if you've watched that.
which one you could turn it in after a year and kind of get what's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
It hasn't really changed all that much.
And mentioning, like I said, he was on Cobra Kai too, because he was in the original Karate Kid movies. That is excellent writing, for people who really like episodic television and things like that in series. I did not know that I would really get into it because I didn't really remember the Karate Kid movies. I think I maybe saw one or so. I didn't really remember them. And my friends and everyone was like, well, there's, like bullying, there's high school stuff. Like, you're a Y, right? You have to, watch this. And my mom and my sister, everybody was on me. So I'm like, fine, I give in, I watch. And I got so hooked. The storytelling was just excellent.
See, I think
I
you
have no
faced
interest in martial arts. I know nothing about them, but the drama and, the intrigue and the cliffhangers and everything. And then the bullying and then the trying to overcome the obstacles. Like some of these kids were picked on. And so they're trying to, be able to defend themselves and be more self-reliant. And of course, there's some romances and then there's love triangles and this and that. It was really compelling.
see because I know we've talked about this before as far as age group because they're very advanced on these shows, much more than they were before. So I know we've talked about the fact of young adult. What does that mean? Like Amy, what do you think that means, young adult? I mean, what age group?
Oh, well, we have a granddaughter who's 12, so she certainly is almost in that young adult age group, I would say.
Yeah. See, because
Yeah,
it's hard to
preteens
know
in
what
particular
age.
love the young adult. I did a course in a writing conference and they were asked me to speak on that. And I was saying about like the audience is a lot of preteens for young adult. And then you
Yeah.
have adults that just love YA as well. And those tend to be even your bigger audiences because sometimes the high school kids, they get very caught up in their own activities as well. But sometimes they like to read a little bit older. And when I was in grad school and I was taking classes on children's literature and teen fiction and all this, my professors would always say kids really do like to read up. So you do find a lot of preteens reading the YA books.
Oh, I'm sure.
Almost every movie I see now, though, all of them. I mean, I would say almost all of them. They all are from books. It turns out to me, some of the things that I'm watching are from books adaptation. You know,
Hmm.
it just seems to be, that's why I say a lot for people. A couple of weeks ago I had Murray Siegel on. He was a client of mine when I was an agent, and I took my books and I made them, into, my screenplays into books, and so he did that also with one of his books. So I think because people that write screenplays, sometimes it goes nowhere, unfortunately. So if they have a good story and can possibly write a book, it's good for them to do that because at least their story's getting out there. Because it's very hard to get a movie made, even a bad movie. I mean, it just is it's millions and millions, even for a small budget. It
Hmm.
just costs a lot. Actually, next week I'm having Joanne Hock. She's a filmmaker, so I'll be talking to her about that also because it is about the money.
Hmm. What are
You know.
you watching right now, Marcia?
Me, I'm watching so many things, but I just watched a good movie last night, which is the list, called The Life List with Connie Britton.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay.
It's on Netflix. It's good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
And
you're
I'm
going to be doing your Val Kilmer marathon this weekend then, Amy?
I don't know about a marathon, but probably one movie that I choose. So yeah, just a tribute. I've been also watching The Residence on
Okay.
Netflix.
Did you
Just
like
Mm-hmm.
it? I didn't start that yet. Did you
I
like it?
just started it, so I'm enjoying it. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, Residence. Yeah, that's on my list. I watched Adolescence, which was very intense, but
That's
unbelievable acting. Did you see it? And it either of you?
no,
No,
no.
not yet.
It's 4 episodes, and that's all. But it was
Well,
so good.
Martha and I both watched Treasure with Lena Dunham, and
Oh,
which is also
it's
from a
really
book
good.
and true story. That was wonderful.
It's really good. It's about a daughter trying to understand some of the things her father felt when he was a Holocaust survivor.
Ah,
It was really good,
that
and she
sounds
was
Yeah.
great in it, and the father was good. It was a really good story.
Yeah. Yeah, it
For
was very well done. And we
uh,
watched Real Pain, which also deals with two young guys that go back to Poland to see where their grandmother grew up. She had just recently passed, and they're also dealing with things with the Holocaust and everything. And they're in different places in their life. And
Jesse
in fact, one of the actors
directed it. He directed it,
just
I
won
think.
an Oscar for it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
unbelievable.
really good as well.
Did you see that? Did you see it,
no,
Amy?
Mm.
no. I have not. No,
It's good.
I'm writing it down as you're talking.
Yeah, the treasure. I didn't know about the treasure either. Kristen told me about the treasure, and then I also watched 01 with um, Robert De Niro. That was good, very
Oh,
good. Yeah,
Not that I was
there's
into
been
that.
a lot of good ones. I mean, pretty much, But there's also some comedies now, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
yes.
I started the Grosse Point Garden Society
Is it good?
just yesterday. Yeah, well, my mom, okay, one of the characters, Anna Sophia Robb, she's a teacher at this Grosse Point school, and my mother was a teacher at a Grosse Point
Uh,
school. And that's how it really came on our radar, is because my mom taught there. Um, and that school doesn't exist anymore, but so I really wanted to see it, but they don't actually film in Grosse Point, but they have enough like little things in there, like they mention one like street name or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting, very intriguing. You're trying to figure out, well, for one, you're trying to figure out who they buried. Somebody has been murdered and he's buried, or he or she is buried somewhere, and you can't figure out who. There's so many people that you kind of are like, okay, is this the person that got murdered? And these characters are all, like in this together. And so you're seeing how like they intersect and everything. So it's definitely piquing my interest. And tonight, I hope my power stays on, because that's how I plan to ride out the storm tonight, is watching that. And that's on NBC.
Oh, that's a definite check.
and then I watch also the Doc Odyssey, Doctor Odyssey. It's on Peacock. It's with Don Johnson. It's not like you would think. It's not like a Love Boat. It's kind of like, well, it is like a Love Boat, but it's medical,
Mm.
and they all have something wrong. Something happens. If somebody, Donna Mills was on from
Oh my.
That's
yeah.
Andy.
Knots Landing is coming to Netflix, I think.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime, because my mother was watching that and she's like, guess what? And so that's
Yeah, I
um,
wonder how it
where I
looks.
came in there.
Yeah, I used to watch that. Then there's another one with Ellen Papio that's called Good American Family. It's kind of she said it was difficult too. You know, it's a very difficult. I don't know. I'm looking up right now to see how many episodes there are. I don't know. There's like I don't know. There's probably about 8. But I think people they're used to now watching episodes. So like even myself and my husband was watching something and he goes, I said, how is it? He goes, eh. And I went like, wait, because it's only see that's the thing. If it's not like really comes at you, people don't finish it.
Mm.
Yeah, it does take a
It could
while
be
to
really
get
good.
into things.
It could be
Yeah,
really good if you know,
and I
but
think
you don't know.
what's going on in the world too can affect like there are times when there are certain things that are just a little bit too close to reality. Like I remember when the Veep was very popular, and of course it still is. But when it was actually on, I mean, um, like it was funny. But then as things started to change with politics, it was a little bit, different watching it. You're watching it through a different lens. Like
Right.
even I remember the second Wonder Woman movie when it came out. The first time I watched it, I was like, oh, another great Wonder Woman movie. How nice. But then when I watched it after the whole January 6th thing happened and they were like doing things, in these, government buildings and everything, you had a different feel for it. So sometimes, I don't know if you guys feel that way. Are there certain times where you can't watch things, you want like more of like a mystery, or like for me when there's a lot of chaos or things, I like either a mystery where I have to figure something out, so I'm focusing on something else, or an action adventure, like something like The Librarians, or there's a lot of great ones on Amazon Prime, or like The Hardy Boys, which is both action adventure and mystery. The newer Hardy Boys on Hulu, that one, with the two boys and stuff solving their mother's
Right.
death
Right.
and all these other mysteries. I need something like that to take my mind off. Do you guys have a series or a movie that you go to for when you need to just kind of clock out from the real world for a little bit?
Well, mine would be Mad Men because I just love that show.
Yeah.
I know the lines of the show. I love that. I don't know why I love it so much, but if I just want to have something on and not have to be really watching it, I
Mm.
picked Mad Men. I just love it.
Yeah, I I'm a
Maybe?
BritBox I'm a BritBox subscriber, so
Oh,
there's
I
quite
like it. Yeah, I think they have good things, right?
they do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're getting into there's a new show called Ludwig, and he creates puzzles. And what happens is his twin brother, who's with the police force, disappears, and he actually goes in to take his place, but he's kind of a agoraphobic, extremely introverted. So it's there's some comedic moments in it, but yeah, it's definitely comfort viewing, as are a lot of the shows on BritBox. So I absolutely am the same. If things are chaotic, I need to get away from the news, escape. I need comfort TV. I need my scented candles,
Yeah.
the cat on the lap, the whole nine yards. So, but yeah, for me, mysteries have always been comforting. Gentle mysteries, not you know, not anything too violent or out there, but
Right.
nothing too intense. That's for
Yeah, I
certain.
like with the YA mysteries for that reason. In fact, the book that I'm writing right now, I have the character reading a lot of the YA ones to escape. And in my last book, which Amy edited and I dedicated to Marsha and put Amy in the acknowledgments because they really helped me get this book off the ground. When Stars Collide in the City, they talk about playing Nancy Drew computer games to kind of, like decompress and stuff. Or like the newer Nancy Drew books is more, when I say newer, I mean everything from, the 80s on, because they're still putting out Nancy Drew books today, the Nancy Drew Diaries. And, what's nice about some of those, or like a Joan Lowry Nixon, the more contemporary ones, is they don't have the real world grown up problems. So sometimes when you're reading some of the more adult mystery novels, there was one I really liked, but she was dealing with all these things like the home foreclosure and all these problems with, moving and the breakups and, and this other character getting divorced and stuff. And it was just a little bit too much real world stuff in with this mystery. It was an excellent mystery, but a couple times I had to put it down because I'm like, oh, my friend is going through that, or oh, this is, a little bit too much real world. Whereas with Nancy Drew, she's in some kind of fun location. Either you've been there, so you're picturing it, or she's, someplace, exotic and exciting that you'll probably never travel to. This is as close as you're going to get. And, they put so much, detail, you can almost like smell, like when she's in Tahiti, you can almost, smell the things, feel like, the breeze from, the water and everything. And so it's just a really good way to get my mind off things because I'm trying to solve it faster than Nancy.
Almost
And
worse.
I'm trying to, soak up the atmosphere of, wherever she is, Greece or wherever.
That's why, like Emily in Paris is very popular because you're looking at the
Mm.
clothes, you're watching her go to all these places, and I think that's one of the things. At the first, I think they had more sex the first season, and I think they changed their route. They didn't pursue it as much because there's a lot of younger people watching it. So I think when
Mhm.
they picked up their audience, they just now, they it's really big on the fashion and music and love too. But at the beginning, it was a little more sexy, and then they kind of toned it down. I think it's a good show. It's cute. I mean, it's fun to see somebody like Emily. You know,
Mhm.
because that could be any girl. And especially
Always
she looks
reminded me
tough.
always
She,
reminded me of the Audrey Hepburn movie Funny Face, if you've ever seen that with Audrey and Fred Astaire. It's one of my favorites.
and
Yeah,
Really
it's a
funny
great.
pair.
so, Amy, what are your favorite? Been your really top favorite now?
Oh, favorite film?
Yeah,
Oh boy. Um,
you watch so many of the older films.
I do. It's hard to. It's one of those situations where it depends what mood I'm in.
Right.
Certainly Hitchcock and my new series, the new book and series, Death Upon a Star, features Alfred Hitchcock as a character. The premise is a script supervisor from New York moves to LA in 1939 and begins working for Alfred Hitchcock on the set of Rebecca. So,
I think there's nobody that is like him in any way, shape, or form. He is his
he's
Mhm.
own
certainly
person.
unique.
He was his own person.
He was. And his films are certainly, when you watch them, you know it's his.
Yeah,
They're definitely an emphasis on the cinematic rather than the dialogue.
yeah. Yeah.
There's long stretches where it's just,
Well, like, isn't it what where Kim Novak in one of the movies, even the way her hair went in a French twist, it used to be, I think, called.
vertigo.
Yeah,
Yes.
vertigo, right? Because that's he went down to that much of a detail in her hair.
Yeah. Yeah. He took control of a lot on set. He wasn't very hands on when directing. Most of his planning was in the storyboarding.
Yeah.
He used to be a title artist. That's how he got his start in
Really? I
films.
didn't. Oh,
Yes, for silent films.
wow.
Um, and from there, because he was a very competent illustrator and designer, I would say his films are more designed. He basically blocked out his shots well in advance. He knew exactly what he wanted to film. He knew exactly what shot, the camera angle, the lighting. And so when he was on set, there were always rumors that he was sleeping. That wasn't true, but there were times when he not seemed very interested because he had already envisioned it. So he only really spoke out to an actor and gave advice if he felt they weren't quite capturing his vision. But if they were doing a great job, he just kind of sat back and let them do their work.
Well, that's
So
a good thing. That's a
he,
good thing.
he actually found the filming sometimes to be dull. He'd be using that time to think about his next project. So,
But it's
yeah,
probably a good thing for the people because sometimes I don't know. Oh, yes, there is the new show. It's at with Seth Rogen when he's it's about he's well he's it's about Hollywood movies,
yes.
and it's a funny movie. It's funny, and how much he wanted to, put in. He wanted to really have this whole idea that he thought would be different, and the it didn't work out for him because they wanted him to do same old,
Ah,
which now I think that like Alfred Hitchcock, he had his own space, but I think that's a problem for a lot of directors and producers now because they think about the money, and if they're not going to make money, then it doesn't go.
well,
Yeah.
I agree, but it's funny you say he had his own space because the in Death Upon a Star, Rebecca was Hitchcock's first U.S. film, and he worked for David O. Selznick, who was a terrible control freak. And he was on uppers so that he could be more productive, and he had no fewer than 2 secretaries in his office at any time taking memos simultaneously. And he was the king of the 20-page memo telling a director what he wanted to see changed. And here's the bottom line. We have to bring it in under budget and this and that.
Yeah.
But Hitchcock had such a name in England. And he was also he knew how to play the system a little better, that he could get things, I guess, around the censors and around Selznick.
Yeah.
So he knew how to work it, but in that first film, Hitchcock never considered it a Hitchcock film per se, because so much of it had been dictated by Selznick. Selznick wanted to be a complete picturization of the book, and it was hard for Hitchcock to get some of his touches in there, but he did. He managed.
Yeah.
So yeah, but he certainly had his constraints at the time.
The name of the movie is The Studio. It's a series. Sorry.
Oh, yes. Catherine O'Hara, I think, is in that too.
Yes,
right?
she is.
Yeah.
She is. It's on. I think it's on Prime. Yeah, it's on Prime. And I'll tell you, it's very funny because, certainly, I was doing screenplays for so many years, and we used to make calls in my office, and people would say, I'd say, what are they looking for? So they go like, well, we don't want this, we don't want this, we don't want this, we don't want this, but we want this, like Pretty Woman, let's just say. But Pretty Woman, it wasn't that easy to get it produced. So, they look at it in their head, they want that movie to be a success like that.
Right.
But it doesn't always work. And my sister's, I think, I forgot what's not my sister's wedding. Well, that was they had a few of those kind of movies. And you don't know if it's going to be a success all the time. And now they don't even want to take chances. And when a movie doesn't do well and they've spent millions and millions, they're not happy.
Yeah, there's so many remakes right now too, and like Disney doing the live action things and stuff, like with Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, Mulan, and I think they did Little Mermaid, because they also had some musicals and like Snow White and stuff like that. But I guess
think they did
because I like
Snow White now.
Yeah, which I haven't seen yet, but yeah, for me, I love Cinderella, but I didn't get into the live action one, and I liked Beauty and the Beast, the cartoon, but I just didn't really get into the live action one. And Mulan, I know a lot of my friends really enjoyed, and I made it partway through, but I don't know, the live action ones, they don't hold me in the same way. I guess it's not the same kind of like magic and fantasy that I look for or something, because I was surprised I wasn't as excited watching the Cinderella one as I thought I would have been.
Wicked is free now.
Oh, okay.
It's out there, yeah.
Hmm.
It's like, there's so much to watch, and so I get when people, if they're really not that interested, then they don't finish it. I want to finish a series, I feel it's almost like a job though, because I want to see how they turned it around. But I guess I'm doing because a writer probably looks at things differently than other people do. You know, I want to see the whole. I think he called it. I think I don't know, some movie. I think it might have been on the studio where they said, "I like bookends. I want it to start and the end. It all fits together." I like my stories. I like every piece to fit, and for me. But I think sometimes people walk out of a show or on TV and there's parts that they go, well, what happened with this or what happened with that? They're not satisfied.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do too with some of the longer things. You don't know if it's going to get picked up. You don't know how successful, how many seasons, and you might not have the same people working on things because maybe they didn't know they were going to get picked up and they went to work someplace else. And so, yeah, you do have some loose ends or some things that aren't as cohesive, or it takes a while because I didn't know that they were going to get picked up. Because now a lot of times there'll be like these online fan petitions to bring a show back. And so it can take a while for like another season to come out. Like the show Manifest, if you ever watched that, about an airplane that disappears and for several years, but then all of a sudden lands at the airport, and the people on the plane have not aged from that day. And so they expect to go back to their real lives, but everybody has moved on. Like one of the main characters, his wife is been dating somebody. He had twins, and one of the little boy was with him. He's still a little boy, but the other twin, she's a teenager now. And so it's like, oh, like everybody's life has changed. And that was like having to wait for the next, this new season was agony, because you're just dying to know what happened to these people. That was really well done. So yeah, you do want all the little loose ends, but that must be so difficult, especially if you don't know if you're getting another season, because for some shows that take off that you didn't necessarily think it was going to, go the way it did, like with Gilmore Girls, if you guys are familiar with that show.
Yeah.
That one went on for so long, and there were all these little things, and then they came out with the newer version, I think in 2016, I think it was. I just rewatched that because I wanted to, go back and see everything. And they brought in like some of the older characters that people had dated or been friends with in the past, and but they left off on a big cliffhanger, and they have not returned to that show. And I'm dying to find out what happened, But yeah, it must be difficult because you have these characters, you have some ideas, and then all of a sudden, like when they started out, Rory is in high school, and then of course she goes to college, she goes to Yale, and then she graduates, and then she's, out in the real world trying to, find herself. That must be really hard to take a character like that if you hadn't thought that far ahead. Now, I know with my characters, I can tell you what they're going to do in the future because that's how well I get to know them. Do you guys do that with your characters? Do you kind of envision what happens after the book is over?
Well, not all the time, but there's sometimes I'm not finished thinking of them. I wish I would. They're still in my head, so that's a problem for me. Will I do something again? Amy, what about you?
Oh, I have their lives plotted out. Yes.
Me too.
Future books. In the next book, they'll do this, and
Yeah.
the main characters, the minor characters, the supporting characters. Yeah, I know exactly where they're going to
You
go.
make an outline?
That's a dirty word for me. I hate outlines. I always start out with a premise. I know who's committed the murder. I know who is murdered. I have a basic idea of the motive,
Yeah.
how it's done, but I don't outline. I really just let the characters.
Yeah, I don't outline either. No.
I let them take me where they want to take me, and it's usually I have a better idea of the main characters and my vision for them and where they want them to go. But sometimes there's just those secondary supporting characters that really take on a life of their
They're
own.
great. Those are the best to write.
They are. They're fun, and usually they're the ones who are a little more lighthearted. They offer a break from the tension and a mystery. Um, but no outlines. And yes, I have their future children, everything. It's just horrible.
Yeah, the secondary characters is where I jumped off of. I wrote a book called Falling for a Star in the City about a soap actress she's a teen soap actress. Her whole world in the soap world kind of is off kilter, and she meets this college hockey player. And she had this ex-boyfriend, Walker Vinton, who all of a sudden gets picked up to be an indie pop star after all this time of trying. And she has a friend named Olivia in there, and that's the secondary characters. I had no intention of ever writing about them. And that's where, as you guys know, the book, When Stars Collide in the City came from, because my mom kept saying, Walker's story isn't over. I want more Walker, and then when the book came out and other people were saying that too, I'm like, well, I do have some stuff I've been working on. You fall for these characters, and you want Walker to get his happy ending, happily ever after, because, Paige is now with this hockey player, and, what happens to him? You're kind of invested in these characters as a writer, and hopefully the readers are too. But yeah, it's hard to shake these characters when you think you're done with them.
Right.
And
You
I greatly enjoyed that book, by the way. I really
Oh,
did.
thank you.
It
Thank
was,
you.
it was very romantic. I was very happy at the ending. And yeah, I
Mhm.
felt myself getting invested in those characters as
it's
well.
right.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. I appreciate
And
that.
I really, I would certainly recommend it. Our oldest granddaughter, as I said, is 12, a little older, but I plan on getting a copy to give to her because I really feel that, there's a lot to be learned about self-esteem and standing tall and, to peer pressure and everything else in there and just, self-worth and self-value.
Man, that matters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, it was a great book, great read. Very, very happy to be part of it.
Well, I really appreciate your help on all of that. And I just try to write the books I wish I had had at that age.
I I think you succeeded because that was a great one.
Oh,
And
thank
I
you.
think those are the things that are important, to if we're as writers, to have something to say, but make it where
Mhm.
people care about the characters.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and
That's
help people really.
authors
Yeah.
like. I don't think people realize how much that authors love to hear that people mention their characters by name.
Yeah. Because they're people to us, they're real
Yes,
people to us.
I call them my people. That's who they are.
Hmm.
I we're,
Yeah.
we're almost done, and so Amy,
Yes.
just say what's happening at the end, so people. I'm going to put if I'm going to make a blog about this or put it on another. It's not allowing me right now to put like I used to put everything on, but I'll find your web, I'll put your website on and Kristen,
Sure.
so people will know, you know what you're.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, so people can look because they always want to know more, and I think it's good, to that's what's good about podcasts because people, you talk, they like to know about the author, not just
Hmm.
the book.
It,
They
it,
want to know about you guys. I think it's important. So, what's your closing? What's the closing here for you, Amy?
oh, well,
For authors.
for projects, authors, projects, I'm contracted for another Vermont country living mystery and also working on the sequel to Death Upon a Star,
Oh,
which
good.
will be on the set of Foreign Correspondent. I'm going chronologically through the Hitchcock films.
That's
And
good.
also pitching another project with my agent to another publisher. And I picked up something I hadn't worked on in about 10 years, a mystery I was working on related to the Poe toaster who used to visit Edgar Allan Poe's grave and toast a glass
Ooh.
of brandy to him on the anniversary of his birth. So a little historical mystery there.
Ooh, that sounds very intriguing.
All right.
It's funny, yes.
Kristen?
Well, I'm working on the next book in the Stars in the City series, but and this is the first time I've mentioned this, but there's also going to be a little offshoot where I mention about some of the characters being from a suburban town, a wealthy, affluent area called Bloomington Shores, and there will be a book very soon coming out that is set in that suburb. It's a lake town, and I'm really excited about that. And so I've been working on that, and that'll be coming out soon. And that is called Summer of Possibilities.
Ooh,
Okay.
nice.
All right. Thank you both very much for being on the show. And as you know, Amy and Kristen, anytime you want, you could be on. And Kristen, we're going to have some different shows, I think. We'll figure out some new things. And Amy, if you have a thought of some type of show that you want to have, please just let me
I
know.
will. I will. Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, it's so much fun to hear about what everybody's doing. And, I think, adding movies with books, I think it matters because I think sometimes people, like to hear what other people are watching.
especially with Amy's work, doing like the Rebecca stuff, and because that's one of my favorite mysteries too.
I love.
And
Oh, that movie is great. That's like one of the best movies ever. I love it.
and
It's a
share your title again with that one, Amy.
Death Upon a Star.
That's right.
Yeah. So
Alfred
for all you
Hitchcock.
fans of the
Alfred
Rebecca
Hitchcock would
movies,
probably be very happy to meet you.
Well, thank you both for a great conversation.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great day, and I hope nobody has any bad storms. Let's hope.
I
Yeah,
know, yes.
The weather's been bad all over. I mean, like I said before, we have sunshine, and then all of a sudden, sometimes it's raining. So Chicago just changes 1, 2, 3. I mean, we don't. Sometimes we could have 4 things: cold, hot, rain, snow in one day.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely have something coming. I can hear it picking up now. So
Well,
hopefully we'll all stay safe. Everybody stay safe out there.
everybody, thank you guys again. Take care. Bye.
take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.